Until recently, I thought that Copilot was mostly about code completion, a kind of advanced IntelliSense. But my eyes have been opened, and so I thought I'd do a kind of entry level intro, doing something fairly simple. So I'm going to do using azcopy. I'm going to copy some files in an Azure storage container from one container to another. And I haven't done that for a while. So I'm going to use the Copilot chat to basically steer me in the right direction. So the only setup I've done here is creating a storage account, which I'll delete later. And I've got a source container and a destination container. And the source container has 2 blobs in it. Okay, so you can, as it says here, you can just press Control-I and you can then go and ask Copilot to do something. But I want to keep a full history in chat with this. So I'm going to open the chat up here and I'm going to say, okay, what is it that I want to do? I want to use azcopy to copy all blobs in one container to another container in the same storage account. Could be a different one, but that would make it a slightly larger script. Okay, and just start with something simple, see what it gives you, and then what errors you hit, and build from there. So you can run it straight in the terminal, but I want to create a script that I can keep and use later. So I'm going to apply that to the editor. I'm just going to accept those changes because I had nothing there before. So what have we got? We've got a source container URL, and okay, so let's tell my storage account name is this, and my source container is, let's just copy and paste that, save a little bit of time, the source container, and destination is destination container. So rather than manually change these values here, I'm telling Copilot what those values are so that it can keep that in the context for when it generates things in the future, updates to the code in the future. So we're going to apply that to the editor. It gives you a chance to accept or discard. I'm just going to keep that. Now, okay, so that looks like the right source and destination URLs. Now it's saying a token. Okay, so where do I get the token? Okay, I need to generate a valid SAS token. In the script, please. In the script, please. And you can see now it's looks like it's made one up. Okay, so that's interesting. It's getting there. You've really got to steer it. So it's kind of made that up. We don't want to make any of that up. I don't want to made up. I don't want a made up SAS token. Let's make a call to generate a SAS token. I have a key for the account. Goes off. The full history is here. It keeps scrolling it up. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Go and apply. Oh, hang on. I need to accept these changes first. Now I'll apply these new changes. And I'll just accept those as well. All right. Okay, cool. So now I need the resource group, source container. They're all correct. So let's tell it for the context, the resource group name. And this is a default resource group. This is something I'm going to delete later. So the resource group, remember the resource group name is this. Let's see what it generates. Cool, let's just apply it. It seems to be, depending on the file, the context file that you're working with, this can be the button that applies it to the editor. Like I was working on some bicep code, and it wasn't inserted into the terminal because that kind of doesn't make sense. I think because it's PowerShell, it's saying the default here is to insert it into the terminal. We're wanting to apply this into there, which we've already done that, so we'll accept those changes. So it's going to remember that in the future. So let's. The other thing is it's using this. I have a preference. You may not. To use the Azure CLI. Please change to use Azure CLI without the E. I think it'll figure that out. There we go. And wait for it to finish. And again, apply that to the editor. It's going to update all those to AZ commands, and I'm just going to accept. All right. So now let's run it. I'm not entirely sure this one's necessary, so I'm going to leave that off for the moment. I'm going to hit F8, which if you right click, you can run the selection, which is F8. So that's now set the values for those variables. And I'm going to F8 again here and execute this to try and get a SAS token. And we'll see if that works. I suspect it won't, because I haven't logged in to Azure. Yeah, so no subscription found, so we need to log in. Now, what we normally do, how we normally do that is an AZ login. How do I authenticate? How do I log in? And specify my tenant ID. If you're like me and you work with a number of different subscriptions, you usually need to be clear about which tenant you want to work in, or it could log you into the wrong one. So that's why I've asked it about my tenant ID, and then it should give me some options here and set the tenant parameter. So we can add that to our script, apply to the editor. Right, now where do we get our tenant ID from? For our subscription, that's our subscription ID, but the tenant is like a level above that. And the way to find that is with Microsoft Entra ID. It's just in the overview, and you can see the tenant ID there. So I'm just going to grab that and put it into there. So let's run those. So I'm going to accept those changes, keep it in the script. I need to delete this before I try and run those. So I'll just do that. And now let's try and log in. And we'll log in, and it's logged in with my main. I've only got the one subscription in this tenant. I don't know why it doesn't pick it by default, but you just pick the number. So now we're logged in. Let's try I'm just using the up arrow key, and we're going to try and create our storage account key again. No, that's a different one. Oh no, it is. That's correct. Let's try that. Right, did it give me a value? Storage account key. Yep. Okay. So that's my account key, which we can use down the track to obtain this SAS token. It must be, there's a storage account name. storage account container name. It's not, doesn't appear to be using it. Okay, so I've got a storage, hang on, let's do this. Storage account key has a value, but the var is not used to retrieve the SAS token. Now you can go to the documentation for AZ account keys list and you can figure this out yourself. The point of this exercise is let's lean on Copilot to steer us in the right direction. It saves a bit of time finding the right documentation. In this case, it would probably be not too hard, but other documentation can be more difficult to find. I'm going to apply that in the editor. I expect this line will be updated now. There we go. And the little squiggly yellow line has disappeared. I think the squiggly yellow line is telling me that it's assigned, but never used. Okay, so let's accept that change. There's our key. Is that going to give us a SAS token? Looks like it. Let's do the SAS token. Yep, got a SAS token. And it's going to be alive for 7 days. Of course, you can set that, should set that to a shorter time period, unless you really need it. In fact, I might even just do that now. Add hours, and we'll just add 1, so it's only valid for 1 hour. And okay, so these tokens are not, these URL variables aren't being used. I'm not sure I agree with that. But let's go to the next steps and see what happens. And I want to verify the URLs before I try and execute it. So add a step to output the source and destination URL bars. That'll do. Because I want to visually check that the code it's created is correctly setting those URLs. Sometimes you've got to wait for it to finish. That is done. Apply an editor. Okay. If you click show changes, you can see what was there before. For some, that all looks the same. I'm just going to accept those changes. And now I'm going to try and run this one. That's just assigning those variables. And let's see what they look like. So source container and the destination container, but there's nothing after this, even though if we look here, yep, according to this there isn't anything there. So now we need to use the SAS token on those URLs. Now, I knew that we need the SAS token for this to work because those accounts are, those containers are private. But you may not have known that, in which case you just simply keep going down to the next steps and then you'll hit a security error. It'll say you don't have the right permissions to do the azcopy command. All right, so let's see what it's done. Again, we'll show changes. I don't know why I think it's thinking the whole thing has changed because of that, and it's grouping it all together. So I'm just going to accept those changes, and we'll tell it what to fix. If we just go forward, it appears to be adding that SAS token there now. So let's try that. It would still be valid, so we don't need to regenerate it. That's now assigned that. Let's see what they look like. All right, so the destination is this guy. That's interesting. So it has put the SAS token on the end. But what it's lost is the source container name. And the same is true with the destination. SAS tokens appended, so there's something funny about the question mark. Probably needs to be escaped properly. So let's tell ChatGPT, Copilot, there's something funny about the question mark. Maybe it needs to be escaped because the SAS token is there, but the container names are no longer there. And see what it comes up with. And apply that again. That didn't apply anything. It didn't change anything. We still don't have anything that's trying to escape this. I paused the recording and then I tried a few extra prompts, and it just isn't. It isn't listening. So I'm going to try and tell it, you're not listening. You're not listening. Let's escape the question mark character. Because I tried about 2 different ways to say that without being quite so rude, and it just didn't change it. So let's see if it listens this time. Here we go. All right, so we've got a toke, looks like a backtick. Let's apply it and then just read what it has to say. I apologize for the misunderstanding. Let's escape the character properly in the script. Here's the updated script. And did that apply it? Oh, I mustn't have clicked it properly. Apply in the editor. There we are. And now this is escaped. All right. Is that correct? Was that the source of the problem, the cause of the problem? And now for source container, we've got the source container with the SAS token, and same with the destination container. So our container and container URLs look correct. Now we can try running the copy command. So we're copying from the source to the destination, and let's go. Let's run it and see if it works. Okay, so it's assigning the command to a variable, and then we need to invoke the expression. Right, okay. Not sure we needed to do that, but cancelled. Number of file transfers. Total number of transfers 2, and 2 of them failed. So failed to authenticate. Make sure the value of the authorization header is the correct signature. So there's something still not right. So let's grab this, chuck it in here, and just see if it can figure something out. It looks like we've got read, write, delete, and list. That's what that SP is, and that's on the destination container. Okay, there it indicates there might be an issue with the SAS token. Let's ensure it's correctly generated and use azcopy directly. Yeah, okay. Let's apply that in the editor. What's changed is we're just doing azcopy directly. Okay, we don't need line 38 anymore. Just going to accept that change. The reason why I'm telling it that we don't need that rather than just simply deleting it is so that it knows in the future, so when we get other changes generated, it doesn't put that back and then we have to delete it again. Let's apply that in the editor. It didn't change anything with the way the SAS token was generated. It only changed how we're executing it. So let's try that now. These are all the same. I'll just run that. And let's try and copy that. Cancelled, so the error still exists. Still get 403. All right, so I took a moment, had a closer look at the script and what it's doing, and then the problem became fairly obvious. So I had assumed we were generating the SAS token for the storage account, but if we have a look over here, if I put this on a new line, then new things come to light. That's annoying. Okay. We generate it for, it's actually specific to the container. So let's tell Copilot what it needs to do. And I want to tell it to do two things. Make two changes. First, put parameters on new lines so I can see them more easily. So we would have noticed that if it was in screen, we had to scroll across to see it. Second, we need a second SAS token for the destination container, unless we can generate a SAS token that is container, storage for all containers in the storage account. All right, let's see what that does. All that has done. Cool, so that's great. New line makes everything much more visible, which will make it easier to see errors, which is particularly useful if you're working with Copilot. It does make mistakes. It does forget things. Having said that, it is generally pretty good. I'm just going to accept those changes. I've got a source SAS token, a new destination SAS token. The way they're generated is all the same. Make the SAS tokens expire after an hour. And then it's obviously using the two different SAS tokens appropriately. Brilliant. I think that should work this time. I'll just get the shorter lifespan included. Cool. So they're an hour. Accept those changes. Save. Let's generate these tokens. Should work. Trim any white space. Probably not necessary. That was part of our debugging, but I'll keep it in there. That's our source and destination URLs, which has lost the storage account name. It's lost. You forgot. Include escaping the question mark character. All right, let's see see if it put it there. Otherwise, I'm just going to add it manually, because I think we're at the point now where it should be working. Yep, there we go. It should remember that in the future. So I'm going to just check that, copy those, write the output. We now have the source container and the destination container with the SAS tokens. This is just debugging, so I'm going to ignore that for now and try the azcopy. All right, completed with 2 files transferred. And if we have a look at my temporary storage account, containers, the destination container has the 2 text files which were originally in the source container. So there's one thing. This obviously wasn't necessary. I didn't execute it. So I would tell ChatGPT, Copilot, to get rid of that. But you may have needed it. So it depends on if you had it already installed. But if there was a script that you wanted to execute regularly, then you probably want it to be commented out. That's it. So as you can see, mixed results, but it really helps you. Like, I didn't have to go and look up what all these different parameters were. I didn't have to work out what the correct commands were. It's all there. It helps you work. Copilot helps you work through the errors when you get them. It can be forgetful, and you have to work out how to tell it what the real problem is sometimes, because with this backtick, it just wasn't listening to when I was telling it that, like, hey, we need to escape it. I need to be more clear. I think it was possibly because I was just doing the question mark character, so maybe it was interpreting that as a question. But when I did question mark and then the word character, it seemed to work. Well, it did work. So give it a go. Next time you're working with you get a task to use some technology that you used it a couple of years ago, but can't remember what you need to do. Get Copilot to help you to get a start, and then work through it. It's like working with another developer, and just get it to talk with it to help you get to the end working result. I hope that was useful to see the interaction with Copilot in real time. It took a bit longer to create the video than I expected, because I ran into a few more problems, but I like that with these kind of videos, just letting those problems come up. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If it was, do the like and subscribe thing, help the channel. But yeah, be kind, be curious, and go and create something great.